Hi, I'm Jiahui, and with me I have ViewSonic curved 38-inch ultra-wide angle monitor. It's a real estate beast, perhaps a spectacular solution to all productivity needs. And we are going to review it right here at Swiffer Reviews. This is ViewSonic's VP3881, a massive 38-inch curved IPS display that we have actively used for over a year in several capacities. Driven by a native resolution of 3840 by 1600 at 60 Hz, which means a 21:9 aspect ratio as evident by its scale, and a curvature radius of 2300, sporting a modernized array of I/O ports and functionality. Not to mention a respectable sRGB coverage. Interestingly, this screen can be pushed as high as 4K, but with a major drawback we have to discuss a bit later. So first, let's take a look at its build quality. As far as this monitor's aesthetic, there really isn't much to it. It's a very minimalistic design. A very thin 10mm bezel encapsulates the panel, and a 18mm plastic strip with the ViewSonic name supports it below. There is no power LED in the front and any built-in color LED stripped in the body. Nothing extravagant. However, it does possess certain beauty, mainly surfaced through its scale. A massive 38-inch corner-to-corner with a 37.52 inches of actual viewable area. It's clearly targeted at professionals and content creators, and lacks of visual bells and the whistles that you typically find in many panel builds for general consumers. And that's a good thing, because added glamour reflects on the price but adds no practical functionality. What matters is that the monitor build feels solid, has very few vent holes in the back and a mesh underneath where the speakers are located. Yes, it does come with built-in speakers, but that is far from its strength. So to the rear right are 6 fairly large buttons that provide access to the OSD and power toggle. The only LED indicator light you find on this monitor is on the power button itself. In the back, which illuminates blue when it's turned on or orange in standby. Weighing almost 13 kilos or 28 pounds, the monitor does take some effort to lift it, and that is where the monitor stand comes in handy. The stand is quite large in its own right, but has a nifty handle on the top for lifting it. I have come to appreciate that handle pretty much every time I have to lift it. On the lower area, there is a decently sized cable funnel. It does a good job facilitating cable access and prevents clutter, even when adjusting the monitor's height to the stand's max. As far as the stand's core function, that is holding the monitor in a desired position. It can swivel 120 degrees to the sides, tilt a total of 22 degrees, but most of it biased towards the bottom, and height adjustability of 5.1 inches. It cannot be adjusted to a vertical position for obvious reasons. The VP3881 panel is compatible with a 100 by 100 mm VESA mount, so the stand can indeed be replaced with a flexible arm for more intrinsic adjustments. I do use an arm from Ergotron just to be able to get that perfect positioning and free up some space on the desk. But the provided stand does hold the monitor firmly in place and tries not to be too much in the way. At worst, it does block access to the I/O ports a bit. Fortunately, not something one has to access frequently. The back of the screen exposed through a metal plate are the actual I/O ports. We have 3 USB 3 Type A ports, 1 USB 3 Type B port for PC uplink, 1 USB Type-C, which does accommodate driving the display or powering devices, so it is not just a hub, but a fully functional Type-C port living up to its evolved capabilities. It does require a Type-C cable that is worthy, but not just any Type-C cable will work, such as like the one that come with phones these days will not work to drive the display. There are also 2 HDMI 2.0 ports, 1 display port, 3.5mm audio in and audio out ports, and of course the DC power port. As mentioned earlier, the screen does come with 2 5-watt speakers, but they are far from anything impressive in my opinion. About equivalent to typical laptop speakers, the audio quality can be easily upgraded through cheap external speakers. But if you just need some audible feedback, then I suppose this can do the job. Worthy of the note, the built-in speakers can be driven through both the 3.5mm input jack as well as the HDMI and the display port. And the same remains true for the 3.5mm output jack. So that helps reduce desk clutter by facilitating the audio connection through a single cable of your choosing. Using the lowest button on the back, the monitor takes about 4 seconds to power on with a brief flash of the ViewSonic logo. The top 4 buttons bring up the same drop-down menu indicating its function. The first one allows you to select the pre-calibrated color spaces with 5 major profiles available, which immediately betrays who the monitor is geared towards. The second one adjusts the contrast and brightness. Next, we got the input selection, and the 4th button brings up the OSD menu. In the OSD menu, first thing available is the input selection again. Next, we got the audio engine configuration. Allows you to adjust the volume, mute it, select audio input type, as well as the sound profile. Next, we got the view mode. Here you can select different monitor display application use types, such as setting a gaming profile or black and white photo editing, etc. There are quite a few of them. These profiles are in direct conflict with the calibrated color spaces, so aside from maybe gaming profile, I haven't found them to be useful. Following that, we have the color adjustment. Here we can modify the contrast and the brightness again, change the color format to full or limited ranges, change the color space as well as customize all the screen color variables. And lastly, options for performing color calibration. Next, we got manual image adjustment. You got your typical panel adjustments from sharpness, aspect ratio to overscan, but also what makes this screen acceptable for occasional gaming. Input lag and response time adjustments that improve the gaming experience. Additionally, there is a blue light filter adjustment to reduce strain on the eyes. Uniformity adjustment for more primitive input ports, and of course the HDR10 toggle. This monitor does accept HDR10 signal, but technically only compatible and is not able to provide the full HDR10 brightness range. So something to consider. It can do HDR10 but not really HDR10. Lastly, we got the setup menu. Surfaced here are OSD specific configuration parameters, some power saving and sleep options, and a cool feature to split the screen into multiple sources, such as dual or quad input configuration, technically able to receive 4 independent video signals, as well as picture-in-picture, useful for multitasking. This can really shine in surveillance applications. And finally, we got some I/O port config options and ability to save it in user-defined profiles. All this can also be adjusted via the V-Display Manager software from ViewSonic, but generally, the functionality is within expectation of a wide screen such as this, enabling some versatility. However, what really matters at the end is the screen quality, so let's discuss that next. The panel is a WQHD plus IPS screen lit by LED, running natively at 3840 by 1600 at 60 Hz, but able to go as high as 4K at 60 Hz. Unfortunately, its horizontal resolution limit did not allow its 4K resolution to be symmetrical unless we do GPU scaling cutting of sides with black bars, basically defeating its real estate benefits. The screen is curved at a radius of 2300 millimeters. Its backlight life is rated at 30,000 hours with a contrast ratio of 1000 to 1 and a minimum brightness rating of 300 candela per meter square. The brightness and the contrast ratio is not particularly impressive, but within industry norm. When protruded by sunlight and a well-illuminated room, this screen has no problem keeping up. As with most IPS screens, we get good viewing angles of 178 degrees, both vertically and horizontally. I'm very sensitive to color and uniformity shift, so viewing angles are very important, and here they stay true to that expectation, with no visible shift across the curvature and beyond. As a matter of fact, a curved display with poor viewing angles would be insanity. The panel has a rated response time of 14 milliseconds, but is able to take it as low as 7 milliseconds with built-in gaming profiles. But let's get one thing straight. This is not a gaming monitor. Within this price range, you will find excellent gaming monitors out there that have frame synchronization technologies and a higher hertz rating, which are generally designed for that purpose. But that is not to say you cannot play game on here. I have occasionally played Tomb Raider, Dishonored, among other games, and for a casual approach, it does the job quite well. However, this monitor strength is content creation and manipulation, such as videography, photography, and general design, and particularly shines in video and audio editing due to its horizontal breadth. It's also very suited for general productivity such as web browsing, code development. Although frequently people prefer vertical real estate for coding, depends on the development environment you use. Horizontal placement, just being able to open multiple files for editing at once, is a large benefit. The fact that ViewSonic Factory calibrates these panels and provides an individual report of both luminance and color uniformity, gamma curve, and the grayscaling tracking is really cool. Probably the most relevant part is uniformity report. This report breaks down color space uniformities across 21 zones of the panel, and the average delta E is at 1 or lower, making this reasonable within the unit cost. On the bottom, we have luminance verification, which lands slightly above expected 100% lux in sRGB mode. This is very useful to determine whether you should recalibrate your screen or not out of the box. But generally, in a professional environment, you should recalibrate your monitor after every 1,000 hours of use. There are some limits to the screen. For creative designs such as drawing or photo editing, due to the curvature of the screen, it suffers minimally with line uniformity. So if you do a lot of drawing, I'd recommend a 16:9 flat IPS screen instead. But for nearly all other content manipulation, this phenomenon is irrelevant and this monitor holds its own. I really appreciate being able to shift between color spaces easily through the menu and being able to customize my own. But I also wish it had true 10-bit support and not 8-bit upscale with frame rate control to 10-bit like color, also as known as AFRC. Of course, once again, that reflects on the price you are willing to pay, and while you can pick up this monitor for around $1,000, other large-scale IPS panels with full 10-bit support can get very pricey. So that is always a consideration. Having spent 1 year with this monitor, I intend to continue using it for content creation, mainly video editing, some software development, and occasionally gaming. I am looking forward to next generation of monitors coming from LG and Samsung, but at the moment, this ViewSonic VP3881 will remain on my desk due to its overall performance and screen size. I feel its native resolution and aspect ratio with a reasonable curvature really help productivity. So to summarize the key cons and pros, for cons, non-native 4K resolution is a bummer, inadequate HDR10 support, mediocre built-in speakers, a bit old-fashioned on-screen display interface, a bit bulky stand and no power status indicator in the front. Pros, good screen accuracy with factory calibration on 4 supported color spaces, plenty of adjustments for color customization. Most importantly, a comfortable aspect ratio and the curvature surfacing very usable screen real estate, and that is what makes it for me. I hope you enjoy my in-depth review, and please hit the like and subscribe button to support our channel. We're just getting started developing this review channel, so if there's anything you'd like us to review or have any question, let us know in the comment below. Farewell!